Welcome to Taking Over the Photo Pit, a music photography podcast held by me, Boston Schultz. Now, in this week's episode, we're talking to Emily Grinberg, who is a music photographer based in New York City. And we're talking specifically about how to get started in the music industry and just kind of the basics of how we got started and why, but we're also talking about photography as a hobby and balancing that with a full-time job and just being in the music industry with a full-time career and other career motives. It's such a cool episode to talk to her about her future, what she sees as success, and I'm just so happy that she sat down and talked to me because Emily is so sweet, and I'm just excited to share her tips and advice with you. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a good one, so let's dive right into it. Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. And I just want you to get started giving us a quick intro of how you got started in photography, how long you've been shooting, and give us all the good details about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor to be talking to you and be on a podcast that so many, badass women and photographers have been on. So this is really exciting for me. So I grew up on Long Island, New York, and then I went to school in Boston, but during my years of college, I did a lot of traveling. So I kind of hopped around through Boston, Manhattan, and I also did a term in London. And it's funny because my plan was never to be a photographer. I always knew I wanted to work in music, but photography was never on my radar. I actually, when I was younger, I wanted to be a big name music journalist for Rolling Stone or Variety or Billboard or something. And if you've seen the movie Almost Famous, that's my all-time favorite movie. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to follow that career trajectory. So then when I got to college, I joined all the publications and the radio stations, and I tried to dip my feet into music journalism. And that's sort of what led me to photography because they kind of go hand in hand. But also photography still, as much as I do it as a hobby, it's not my full-time job. I do work at a record label, and throughout all of my internships in college, I kind of discovered that I really want to do other things in the music industry that's not photography, but I do love it so much that it is my biggest passion besides work, and I've been lucky to grow it into a freelance business from there, so I do it on the side, and I just graduated as well. So I'm kind of in the midst of figuring out my priorities, and it's kind of tough with COVID right now, but that's definitely where I'm at and how I got started.
Nice. Let's dig into this record label thing since you mentioned it. So you work full-time right now. Are you working from home? Are you still working with them? And what is it like working at a record label? What do you do? And what drives you to that kind of career path?
Mm-hmm. So since I just graduated, I started looking for a job right away, and it just sucked with the job market being really bad with graduating into a pandemic. But I really wanted to do anything with live music, whether it be touring or production or anything technical on that aspect, anything that kept me on the ground at shows. I wanted to pursue that full time. I didn't care what it was, but throughout my internships, I did a lot of work with brand partnerships, and I started to really like that, and it's such an underrated division in the music industry, and people don't realize that, all the money to support artists come from brands, especially now in the pandemic when there's no shows. Brand deals are keeping a lot of artists afloat. So I started to look for positions within brand partnerships and music. And I got really lucky. I am an assistant at Republic Records on the brand partnership team. And, I plan to work my way up. I work for a great team. I just started about a month and a half ago, so it's brand new. I love it so far, and my team is awesome. It's 4 of us women, and everyone is so tight-knit, and they're great mentors to me, and I'm really excited to grow within the company. But I was drawn to brand partnerships because they do a lot of events. They do sponsored parties, and right now it's live streams, but a lot of the job is event planning when we're not in a pandemic. So I'm looking forward to getting to do that when the time comes.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. But like what was it like getting a job and switching jobs like during COVID right now? Because I know a lot of people are struggling to find jobs, and like you mentioned, if you just graduated like into this, um what were like your focuses? Like what have you been doing during this whole COVID situation?
I was so focused on finding a job. Like, I really did not want to move back home when I graduated. That was the one thing I never envisioned myself doing. I wanted to move out to Manhattan right away and start throwing myself out there and working. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
was looking forward to that so much, and obviously that didn't happen. So, I did a lot of networking for the past few months. I'm not kidding. I had like 4 to 5 calls a week with people that I just messaged on LinkedIn or friends of friends or past coworkers and bosses that I had, just to sort of chat with them and see what they're doing during the pandemic, and telling them that I graduated. And I kind of put myself on everyone's radar so they knew I was looking for jobs. And then everyone was really awesome, and they would start to send me postings and email me to see how I'm doing. So it was honestly, my time was really occupied by looking for a job, which was not the healthiest because I was on my computer and email like 24/7, checking all the time.
Yeah.
But I think it paid off.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you have like a good option, like a good situation
For
right now
sure.
with your
Yeah,
job.
I'm really
So that's
excited
really
about it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talking a little bit more about photography, you mentioned like photography being more of like a hobby versus like a career where you're currently like working for a record label. I would love to talk to you about like your goals with photography more so when it comes to like a hobby, because I know a lot of the people that I've talked to when it comes to music photography, they're like, this is my everything. I want to make it my whole career. Is that the same case for you? Or are you using it more as like an escape, something that's fun for you? Like, what are your goals and like, what are you trying to do with your photography?
I think it's definitely something more fun for me, um, rather than a career goal to be like a photographer for a big name band and go on tour and have my photos published in these big magazines. I mean, all of that would be amazing, but I
Mm-hmm.
do have other career goals, like I talked about with where I am right now at the label. But I first started, like I said, because of doing concert journalism, and that's what I originally thought I wanted to do, and then that changed throughout
Mm-hmm.
college. I still love writing, but one day a publicist for a show that I was reviewing asked if I could shoot photos as well. And I didn't want to say no because, you know, you can risk having your pass taken away. And I really wanted to go to that show. And, you know, they can't fill everyone's passes, they have a limited guest list.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't want to give them any issues. So I borrowed a friend's camera, didn't know what I was doing at all, like completely clueless. The photos came out horribly. I never want to see those photos again. Like, they're so bad. And I did that once. And then about 2 years later, I was asked again for a show to shoot that I was reviewing. And by that point, I had been in the music industry a little more throughout college and my internship. I met friends that had been concert photographers, but I had never done it myself besides that one show, but I was definitely more knowledgeable. So I borrowed another friend's camera, and I knew how to use it this time. And the photos came out surprisingly really well. And it was just the coolest feeling to see how good they
Mm-hmm.
came out, and then to see them be posted on my publications article on the website and have something physical to share with like my followers and my friends and family. It was just like an unexplainable feeling to have like such a cool piece of content. So I borrowed cameras again for like the next 2 to 3 shows, because publicists
Uh-huh.
continued to ask like, oh, can you shoot the show as well? And then um, I eventually bought my own camera, and then I started doing it more and more. And since I love going to concerts, like, in my free time, I just go to shows. And photography gave me another reason to be at those shows, and most of the time for free, which was awesome. I just continued to do that, and I learned how to use my camera. I learned how to edit and use Lightroom and Photoshop and everything. And I loved building up my catalog of photos and having something to show people. And it became fun to me, and I just loved it so much that I kept doing it so much that it sort of became like a freelance career, because I also started doing it for myself and not just a publication. I will actually freelance to a band just under my name. So yeah, I really want it to stay a hobby. I don't want it to eventually feel like work, because I've talked to so many people in my career so far that work in the industry that going to shows becomes like a burden to them because they have to do it so much for work, and I never want to get that feeling. I want to keep it as something that I actually love to do and will hopefully continue to do, you know, on the weekends and after work at night in the future.
I also have like a day job, quote unquote. So for me, like photography is perfect because it's nights and weekends.
Right. It's awesome.
So I can go to my job and then have like a kind of like stress reliever, something that's really fun for me. And something that you said that like really resonates with me is like I never want it to feel like a burden. Like I would always want to just like continue going to shows, and if it ever gets to a point where I'm like, oh, this is a lot of work, like I don't really want to be doing it. It's not fun anymore. But yeah, that's such a nice like perspective to have, and like just keep focused on like doing something that makes you happy and moving forward with that.
Exactly. And with my job now, you know, when we return to events one day, hopefully I'll be able to use my skills as a photographer and help my team out and, you know, capture photos of the event for our files. And so we know what the space looked like, and be able to use that within my career as well, I think would be a great integration.
So you mentioned like working with an online like publication and stuff. How did you get started working with them? Where you came in as a specific writer, correct?
Yeah.
And did you just like find them online and apply and say, hey, I want to write for you? Or how did you create that connection and that opportunity?
It's actually a really funny story. When I started college, I joined the radio station, and that's when I first had my first opportunity to go to shows with a press pass and do a write-up and have that be published for everyone to see. And it was considered a club at my school, so, you know, they advertised to all the students at the fair and everything, and anyone could join, so it was open to everyone. So I did that, and then my LinkedIn, I added a skill that was like concert journalism, just because I just started college, I was building up my LinkedIn, getting ready to apply to internships and stuff, had to put everything on there, so it said concert journalism, and I got an email from this random person I had never spoken to before that was like, hey, I noticed one of your skills was concert journalism. I started this new publication, and I'm trying to grow our team. Are you interested? And I was like, this is so cool. Like, that had never happened to me before, that someone had reached out to me. So I said yes, and it's really cool because I joined that publication when it started out, and it was very small. Like, they didn't have much recognition at all, and I look at it now. I recently left the publication because of my full-time job, but I hope to go back maybe when I start shooting again, when shows return. But the publication has grown so much, and we're able to be recognized by much larger bands that give us passes to shows. And I was with them for about three and a half years. I've only ever written for that publication and the radio station. Never felt the need to switch or try out a new one because I loved them so much, and we just worked really well together.
That's really cool that they reached out to you.
I know.
That's such like a nice feeling to be like, okay, someone actually cares about what I'm doing and wants to hire me.
Totally. It was really nice.
That's really cool. So when it comes to like your music photography, do you have like one accomplishment or something that you've done that like sticks in your mind that you like to like remember on or like brag about? I want to like let you take a moment to say like if there's something that you've done that you've really enjoyed as like an accomplishment or some sort of success for you. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, I think anytime an artist reposts my photos on socials is always such a cool feeling, because honestly, the majority of the time, as an emerging photographer, and I only started about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I don't get that much recognition from my photos. Usually they just kind of they go up on my publication site, but the band never really uses them for anything. So there have been a few instances where I have been reposted by artists, which is really cool. I always get new followers for my photo account, and it just, I always screenshot it so I have it forever, and just to remember that is fun. But specifically, if I can think of like one story, it would be when I shot the Lumineers last fall. Nice. They are one of my all-time favorite bands. I've probably seen them, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. And this is when I was studying abroad in London. And I got a pass through my publication, which was so cool. And this was my very first arena show that I've shot. I've only done like small clubs and theaters, a few outdoor amphitheaters, but that's it. Never like an arena level show. So that was super exciting, but definitely really intimidating for me. It was a whole new experience, but the photos came out amazing, and this is my like claim to fame, but I love to brag about this. Wesley Schultz, who's the lead singer of the band, followed my photo Insta, and he personally DM'd me to ask for all of the photo files, which was just unreal. I woke up in the middle of the night to that notification. Yeah, and like it was crazy because I'll like go to his Instagram and he only follows like 70 or 80 people, and like one of them is my photo account. So that's always a fun story that I love to tell people, and just that entire experience was insane to me. And I hope to shoot more arena shows eventually.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that like an artist is like appreciative of the work that you do and like follows you. It's just like that kindness, and recognition of your work. That's awesome. I love that story. When it comes to photography, I wanted to talk a little bit about your style. Like when you're at a concert, like what are you trying to capture? Like what do you have to have in a shot? Like for a lot of people, they're looking for like movement or like smiles or something like new. Like what are you, when you're at a show trying to capture something, what are you like hoping to capture and walk away from that show with?
Recently, in the past few shows I shot before the shutdown, I have gotten really into crowd shots. I used to only use, the 3 pit songs to focus on the artist, and I was like so stressed, freaking out that I have to have at least one good shot, because in the beginning when I wasn't very good, like it took a lot to get a good shot, but now I'm much more experienced. But I've been doing a lot of crowd shots, and I love turning around the other way and facing the audience, and everyone gets so excited when they get a camera pointed at them, and they make for some really cool shots, and I love focusing on the audience because that's where all the energy comes from. So that recently has been my favorite thing to do. I also have gotten in the habit of trying to watch like the first 3 songs on YouTube, if it's available, the night before I shoot, to figure out what the lighting is like so I can be prepared, but mostly for any cues of any big moments that happen, like confetti cannons or smoke bombs, or if the artist goes into the crowd, which happens a lot. I want to be prepared because those moments happen so fast and they go very quickly. So anything, unusual I try to capture, because when there's a lot of other photographers in the pit, like everyone's photos tend to look pretty similar besides editing style and that kind of stuff. But, everyone's shooting the same thing, so I do what I can to stand out with my photos.
Yeah. Having an understanding of like those special moments and like what to be prepared for, super helpful, because you're 100% correct. They go by so fast.
Yeah, and then I get so mad when I miss them, because that does happen sometimes too, and you're like, oh, if I only was paying attention for like one more second.
I would love to hear like if you have any bucket list shows, like what's on your list that you definitely want to shoot.
That's a great question. I am like a huge grunge fan, so my all-time favorite band is Nirvana. Obviously, they're not around anymore, but second favorite would be the Foo Fighters. I'm a
Nice.
huge Dave Grohl stan, like I'm obsessed with him, and I've only seen them once, like when I was pretty young, and I would love to shoot them. Just like his stage presence and all of the band
Hmm.
members are absolutely insane, and that would just be such a cool show to shoot. Um, I also would love to shoot a festival. One, because a lot of the acts are in the daytime, and that's always nice shooting in daylight and not having to worry
Hmm.
about crappy lighting. But also just to have, such a wide variety of artists at your fingertips to pick and choose who you want to go see and who you want to shoot. And if one act's not too good, you can just run to the other one. Like that would be such a cool experience because I've only ever done shows. I haven't done festivals yet.
Yeah. I love festivals
Yeah. I love
for
going to
that
them.
reason. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You can get like such a variety of shots, like of different bands, different types of bands. And then also, like you were talking about crowd shots, like you can do the same thing at festivals and even get like those one-on-one portraits of people and like their vibe at a festival. So, yeah, very cool. I want to hear a little bit more about the industry in New York City. And you talked about how you've also been in like Boston and London. So, like, I wanted to hear about the industry across these different cities, like what you like, what makes you like stay in New York. Like, I just want to hear about like the different kinds of things going on in the industry because I'm in Los Angeles, so I know about the LA industry, but not necessarily anywhere else. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts and everything.
Yeah, the industry in Boston is pretty small. There's a good amount of venues around there, but like the acts that I've shot, I've kind of stayed at the same few. And it's cool because you see the same photographers. It's a small enough community in Boston where I've gotten to know a bunch of the people I shoot with for other publications. So they're always there. I know who to find and who to be with, and it's cool to have like made photographer friends in Boston, which is really nice. There's some cool venues there. It's pretty easy to get photo passes for shows because it is such a small community, as opposed to Manhattan, where getting approved for a show is much harder and the competition is a little
Mm.
crazy because the amount of concert photographers in New York City, and people come from New Jersey and the five boroughs, and it's just there's so many people and there's only so many passes for each show that can be given out, especially bigger name artists where they're like really cracking down on who they want in the pit.
Mm.
So I found that in New York it's definitely a little bit tougher, but if you're aligned with a great publication and you have work to show, then you should be fine. And I'm happy that I've been with Sound Digest because that's the name of my publication, because they have great recognition, and I've gotten to shoot some pretty cool shows in New York City for them. Um, there's so many venues in Manhattan, and I have not explored all of them yet. I've only lived there for two separate internships, so a total of like 9 months altogether. I can't wait to move back when the pandemic is over and explore other venues.
Yeah.
But New York City is so cool. There's a show every night at a bar or a big venue. Like you can always find a show. And then London is pretty similar to New York. Another huge market, a lot of people competing for photo passes at the same shows. Also, really awesome venues, and unfortunately, I was only there for one semester, so I didn't get to explore as much as I would have liked to. But yeah, I really love all three cities that I've shot in. I don't think I could pick a favorite.
That's really nice to hear that you like all of the cities and everything. And I give it's kind of hard because with knowing like the current situation that we're in and everything, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a ton of venues. Like, how many of them are going to make it out of this situation? So, like, that's what I'm personally concerned about, especially in like these big cities like New York, London, like LA. That's like top of my like concern list, to be honest. I'm like, how many of these are still going to be standing when we come back? Because a lot of people Well, I guess that leads into another question that I have. How many people are still going to live shows? Like, are most of the venues that you go and shoot at, like, are the places packed? Like, does it seem like the people of the city are just like really into live shows still, or is it kind of like not as full?
I think they're still pretty into live shows. I haven't really seen many empty shows. They're either sold out or, almost at capacity. I have been to a few smaller, like, intimate club shows where just the cap is much smaller, so there's less people there. But I have to say, I haven't really been to, like, an empty show. Maybe it's just because
Oh, that's great.
the artists that I've wanted to shoot have been, like, more of my favorite, like, bigger artists. But yeah, I think, the desire for live music will always be around, and more so than ever in a few months, hopefully, knock on wood, when shows return. I feel like it's going to be crazy. Like, eventually when things are safe again, I'm just envisioning, like, this explosion of live entertainment, and people are going to be out every night, and I'm going to be out every night because I can't take being home any longer. And I think it's really going to thrive when shows come back eventually safely.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I really hope so. I mean, like, we've seen that high demand for these, like, drive-in shows, and I don't know how many of those you have out in New York. But I haven't been hearing a lot about them, but, like, when they pop up, they're, like, completely sold out, like, immediately, because everyone's like, get me out of my house.
Yeah, there was a drive-in show a few months ago in the Hamptons on Long Island that the Chainsmokers did. I don't know if you heard about that whole thing.
Oh, wasn't that, like, where the crowd, like, came up to the stage? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's, like, a pretty close drive to me. So when I saw that pop up, I was like, oh my God, like, I need to shoot this show. Like, let me email every single person that I can. I probably sent, like, 10 emails to every single person connected to this show that I could find to try and get a photo pass. And unfortunately, they got back to me, and they weren't doing photo passes for this show because of COVID protocols, and they had to keep it safe, and it was very limited who was allowed on site, which is understandable. But then it came out that they weren't following the rules anyway. So I kind of dodged a bullet there. I'm glad I didn't go. But there hasn't been too many drive-in shows around here. As soon as more pop up, hopefully, I'm going to try to get passes. But they've mostly been in, like, states that aren't near me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's, well, in California, I feel like people have more cars than people in New York. So it, like, kind of makes sense that, like, over on our coast, like, we would have more drive-ins, but, like, that'd be impossible, I feel like, to do in New York City, like, in Manhattan specifically. Like, no one has cars. Like, what are you... But... I don't know. It's an interesting concept. I just haven't seen too many of them come through, and I'm, like, really curious about kind of like what you mentioned, like the protocols, whether or not, like, things are actually safe. I'm really curious to try one out, but I haven't gotten to that point.
One day.
One day. We'll get there. Pivoting real quick, I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, sexism in the industry, because this is a topic that comes up a lot, and I love talking about it and just, like, hearing your take on, like, whether or not you've experienced any sexism or any sort of prejudices in the industry, or if, like, your experience has been good and, like, solid so far. I just love hearing personal opinions about this topic.
Yeah, obviously it's a huge issue in the music industry, and it's so male dominated, and you see stories every day of things that come out in, like, really unfortunate situations. I feel very lucky that I have personally not experienced anything significant in that realm. I am still relatively new to the industry, just graduated, only been interning for, throughout college, so I've got a long road ahead of me, and I hope to stay this way with no big issues. But I have had a great experience so far, which I'm very happy to say, because many people that I know have not had such great experiences. And, you know, it's horrible and things do need to change. But speaking from experience, I don't have any specific stories to tell.
That's great to hear that, like, you've been able to have, like, good experiences throughout the industry and everything. And speaking of, like, the industry being male-dominated, do you see a lot more, like, men in the pit versus women? Or is it, like, growing and getting better? Like, what have been your perspectives over the years of, like, you being in the industry?
I feel like in Boston, I've actually seen more women in the pit.
That's
I'm
really
not
cool.
sure why. I mean, Boston is a college city. There's so many universities, so the population is literally like all college students, and shows are dominated by college students. And for some reason, most of the photographers that I've gotten to know in Boston have all been young women in college that are in schools that are around me, which is cool. London actually was more male. I don't know what that has to do with or anything. In New York City, I feel like it was pretty balanced. But like I personally, since I'm kind of new to photography, I get intimidated when I'm in the pit with this guy that has like, you know, 3 straps of like 10 cameras and a bunch of lenses, and I'm sitting there with like my Canon Rebel, which is the camera that I use, which is a beginner camera. And, you know, my photos always come out great, but it's definitely intimidating when you're standing in there with people that have all this gear and, you know, they kind of just give you a look, and I'm just like, sorry, I'm here with my Canon Rebel. But yeah, I felt that intimidation factor from men in the pit before, but no one's ever said anything to me. Like, people are always really nice. Some people will just ignore you and do their own thing, which is fine. But yeah, that's my experience.
It is definitely, like, terrifying to be in the pit with someone that has, like, I don't know what it is. Like, with them having, like, huge amounts of gear and, like, really expensive gear. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you... Like, this is insane. Why do you need all of this for this show? Because most of the time I think it's overkill. Like you said, like, having even, like, a Rebel or a beginner camera, like, you can produce amazing photos. So it's like, don't, like, first of all, don't judge people for the gear that they have, but also, like, I'm gonna maybe judge the opposite way. If you have too much gear, that's just weird to me. But, yeah, I've definitely experienced that before where, like, the quote-unquote gear snobs
Yeah.
seem to be a little bit judgmental, and
Yeah.
it's hard because there's also a lot that I try and relate to younger people getting started in the music industry is like, this shit's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so hard to get started in the industry anyway, and like, you don't need to buy all of this gear. Like, don't let someone pressure you into saying that you need all of that gear. And like, please ignore all the side eye from like photographers that have all of that gear, because it's definitely not something that you need to follow. So it's funny that that's happened to you and stuff before, because I feel like that's like everywhere. That's all over the world. People are like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have my Canon Rebel, and I use the kit lens, and then I bought a 50 millimeter, which I am obsessed with because it's great for low light at night and inside at shows. And I switched between those 2 lenses, and I've been fine. I was actually gonna buy a better one a few months ago before the shutdown, and I'm glad I didn't, because it would have been a waste of money for right now. But I do plan on getting another lens, one that zooms and is like wider, because the 50 is pretty limited.
Yeah. I shot for, I think, a solid year on the 50, like 1.8, and the only issue that I had with it is like, if the band is really close to you, you can't like back up. If you're in the pit, like, you're backed up against the wall, and there's nowhere else for you to go, and you're shooting at 50 millimeters, and it's like, okay, you got a nice close-up of their face, and that's about it. But yeah, that's a great lens to have. And it's funny that with right now and COVID and everything, there was so much gear that I wanted to get. There was so many things I wanted to do, and then it's just like, forget about it. Like, not happening at all.
Yeah, it sucks.
So to like wrap up all of this conversation, the last thing that I wanted to ask you was like your best piece of advice that you've received about your career or like the music industry or photography. Like, what's the best piece of advice that you want to pass on to everyone that's listening?
For photography, shoot in RAW, because I did not know that when I started, and it makes things much easier in post-production and editing. And that was just such an obvious piece of advice that someone told me one day, and I was like, oh, yeah, I probably should do that. So shoot in RAW and make friends with venue security, because down the road that is going to help you when you get to know them and they let you backstage, or they let you stay in the pit for the whole performance, or they let you into the venue and you don't have a ticket. So that is super helpful. That would be my photography advice. But for my career in general, through all of the other divisions of the industry that I've worked in, just be nice to everyone, because you never know who is going to help you down the road and who you're going to run into, especially being in so many past internship programs for me and becoming friends with like so many interns. Like, I've been told we're the ones that are going to be running the music industry one day, and like I'm going to be someone's boss one day, or they're going to want to hire me. And it's just like, you don't want to have beef with anyone, because, you know, who knows who's going to work with you in the future, or who's going to spread news and gossip to other people. Just always, you know, put on a happy face, help people out when you can, and they'll return the favor one day.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for joining me today. And can you give a quick shout out for everyone of where to find you on like social media, your website, all of that?
Yeah. My personal Instagram is Emily Grinberg, so it's just my full name. My photo Instagram is mjordanphotos, and my website is emilygrinberg.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for joining me. It was so fun just to sit down and chat with you, and I really hope that I'll see you in the pit.
Me too.